Today, I'm turning my bland, lousy office into a $30 million executive study fit for a billionaire from one of my favorite films of all time, Jurassic Park. So, for all intents and purposes surrounding this project, consider me a billionaire because I'm going to create a John Hammond inspired executive office, complete with velociraptors on display, incorporated directly into the design of the entire room. Now here's the thing, dinosaur skeletons aren't cheap. A raptor skeleton costs about $12 million, and I'm going to need 2 of these for this wall. So this is going to be a really expensive project, but it's okay because as the old man always says,
spared no expense. We spared no expense. Spared no expense. Spared no expense.
Anyway, one thing that's never changed for me, no matter how old I get, is how awesome Jurassic Park's architecture is. Not just the architecture of the park itself, but the details on the outside of the main Jurassic Park building, particularly these sections on the side with exposed fossils on the wall that look like they've been inspired by the Wall of Bones at Dinosaur National Monument in Utah, my home state. Now this is a very small detail in the movie. I don't know why I picked up on this as a kid and why it stayed so solid in my mind. But I want to turn this bland workshop space into a dinosaur-themed office with a full floor-to-ceiling stone wall with fossils embedded. Now, if I pull that off, it's going to scream John Hammond. So let's first look at the space that we have available to us and put together a plan to transform it. For my primary office space, this is what we are working with. Just a single desk, nothing on the walls. I've got a great view of a blank wall, but these are really high ceilings. I think it's like a 10-foot ceiling in here probably. We got this cool like archway that leads around into this sort of window well that I think could make a really cool library. I really want this place to pop. So now I just need to get some bookshelves built, create a huge wall of stone, and find 2 velociraptor skeletons to place on it. But there's a problem. That's super expensive. Dinosaur bones are hard to come by, and I'm not John Hammond, and I certainly don't have $1 billion. But I am an artist and a nerd with access to a little bit of extra cash, so let's do this. But the question is, how? So here's what I have in mind for this wall. To start, I'm gonna have 3 shelves. Next, there's gonna be rock from floor to ceiling. Hopefully we can see this a little bit better without the glare. Now I wanna put a raptor skeleton here, and then we'll have another raptor above these doors. Lastly, there's a Protoceratops skull that I recently printed as a test, which turned out pretty good, so that's gonna go right here. So this is kind of the plan of what we want to build, and of course, we must make sure to spare no expense. Actually, I'm kidding. This has gotta be done really, really cheap. So I started off by painting 2 of the walls in the room a dark muted green. This room has beautiful cherry wood trim, which isn't my preferred wood color, but I think that the green is really going to make it pop and make it look higher end than it is right now, and that wood will feel much more in place after paint. So I tape everything off and get to work. And once I'm done, it looks amazing. Next, on this back wall where the rocks and the fossils are going to go, I'm gonna plan out where I want my shelves on this fossil wall. And after I get that sketched in, I'm going to create rock-shaped pieces of foam that I'll place on the wall to act as a sort of canvas for a mortar mixture that's going to cover the whole wall, which I will then carve so that it looks like stone. And don't tell my landlord. I hope they don't see that I'm doing this because I'm never going to get my deposit back once this is discovered. But
Spared no expense.
I just don't want to spend another moment in this soulless room. So let's keep this party going. After all the foam blocks are up, I add spray foam to sort of eliminate the foam drilled into drywall vibe, to kind of ease the transitions from wall to the foam. And then I start to add fiberglass mesh to the wall to give the mortar extra strength when I put it on. Now, unfortunately, this is my first time doing this, so I soon realized that this was probably a waste of time, maybe, I don't really know, but this actually comes back to play later in this project, the fact that I take all the fiberglass mesh down that I put up. Foreshadowing. Now, even though I've not done this before, I do know that this is going to be an insanely messy art project, so I have to cover all of the wood in the room as well as the carpet so that I don't have to renovate the entire place after I'm done. So I start by putting up plastic and taping off everything that I don't want to get my mortar mix on. But wait, there is a problem. I've spent all of my time focusing on the stone portion of this wall and the prep there that I've forgotten about the dinosaur fossils that are supposed to be embedded in the wall. So in order to get the raptor skeletons onto the wall, I first need to make them, which starts with pulling up some 3D models of a velociraptor skeleton that's life-size. The model that I'm using I got from a website called Cults, and I will post the link to it in the video description so that the original artist gets credit and you can download the same files for yourself if you want. It's about $75 for the entire skeleton, which is way better than like the 12 to 14 million that a real raptor skeleton would cost. But it does come in a lot of parts, and that's going to mean a lot of printing time. But I gotta do it, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit slice on this model and send it to the printer. Time to keep pushing forward on this project that never seems to end. So the next task is jumping into 3D printing 2 full-size velociraptor skeletons. I'm doing these out of thin, brittle resin so that I can crack and crush them into the wall for an authentic, unearthed fossil look. I don't want this to look too perfect. I want it to look like you would find this in the wild, dig it up, preserve it, and then slice off a big giant chunk of stone that they were found in and put it in my room, because I'm a billionaire or whatever. But this decision to use this brittle, thin resin, which cracks very easily by design, winds up being a very fateful choice later. Foreshadowing. Now, sadly, this printing process takes me weeks to get these skeletons right, and it turns what could have been a 2 to 3 day project into a 6-week marathon build. But as with any marathon, I just kept at it, and before I knew it, I had 2 full velociraptor skeletons. And now, all of my fateful decisions are about to coalesce into one massive waste of time. But as they say, it's not the destination that counts. It's realizing that you chose the wrong path a long time ago, and I'm about to find that out. You see, I set aside a whole day to mix this thin mortar and slap it onto the wall, and I know that I need to do the whole wall in one go and install the skeletons before it all dries. But the dry time was much longer than I thought. I never bothered to experiment with this on a small square of foam in the first place, and in my haste, I just used my hands to smear this mixture all over the wall. But it turns out my mixture was too wet in the first place, so I got the bones in place on a wall that wasn't carvable because it was too wet, and I also couldn't pull the bones off because I printed them so thin that they were too brittle to rearrange. So the whole wall dried looking like this. It literally just looks like somebody smeared mud all over the wall using gloved fingers, which is exactly what happened. Now here's the other thing. Since I removed the fiberglass mesh during prep, this slop is stuck directly onto drywall, making this a permanent installation in this room, which is going to make my landlord poop a brick unless I finish this perfectly and it looks amazing, and even then they probably won't give me my deposit back. So I make the decision to re-mud everything and make sure it looks like real rock. So let's get to the montage 2.0 where I do this whole thing all over again. This time I focus on really clean application of this material. No finger-shaped smears. I got a rubber stamp roller to give the wall a nice stone texture.
We spared no expense.
And then, once the wall is halfway dry, I start to carve. This is the look that I really wanted. Natural stone. This is gonna take a long time. I also prepare the wood shelving that I'm going to have here. So, as I have gotten this wall prepped, I've got these shelves that I need to have them fit perfectly into the stone when all of this hardens, so that it looks like they're just set in the stone. In order to do that, I'm gonna wrap the back with saran wrap and just press them in, essentially creating like a mold for each shelf to fit right in there with the rock. So at long last, we are finally down to the finishing work on this wall. I cannot wait to get these shelves stained and permanently installed. And this is probably the first project where I've ever looked forward to cleanup, because there is trash and junk and dust and trash everywhere. But once all of that is done, we can finally bring to life this John Hammond style Billionaire's Dinosaur Office to life. Finally, I prepped some paint because I need the skeletons all to be the same shade of the same color before dry brushing them to look like old bone. Now, once the bones are painted, I go ahead and dry brush them to bring out some of the texture. And while that's drying, I clean up the mess of a room that I now have on my hands and move all of my tape off of the wall. From there, I set up these 3 bookcase thingies. And at this point, now that I've done all of this work, my shelves are ready for stain. Now, I didn't film my process of staining these shelves because it took forever to try to get a combination of stains that matched the wood in this space, which you can see I've been filming all these little clips in my completed room, which I cannot wait to show you. And this is what my shelves look like. It's a pretty good stain match. So I installed the shelves. And I finally get to the point where I can stage the room with some dinosaur memorabilia and 100% authentic fossils that I've picked up here and there over the years that finally have a home. And lastly, I have some dinosaur artwork that my dad did for a kid's book before he passed away when I was young. These are treasures to me and in my family, and those are going to go here. And later, I'll find a cool piece of furniture to place along this wall beneath these framed pieces of art. And of course, we have to put some plants in here to give us some greenery and a Jurassic Park vibe. This video is brought to you by Nightweave. Nightweave makes functional cloaks for every adventure, from waterproof fur-lined ranger cloaks to our sun cloaks with a UPF rating of 50+, blocking over 99% of UVA and UVB rays, to our standard comfort rangers that are basically giant cloak-shaped blankets that will keep you warm and cozy through all of your fantasy movie marathons, gaming sessions, and D&D campaigns. This is a business that my wife and I started 2 years ago, and we love outfitting customers just like you with whatever your quest calls for. So use code Christopher15 for 15% off your next order. Head over to nightweave.com and claim what's yours. So now, it's time for the big reveal. So there you have it. The room itself is pretty much done. Now I'm gonna add things here and there over time, of course, but this is exactly what I had in mind when I first started this project. And I want to thank all of you for watching, especially those of you that are subscribed to this channel and are like, man, like, does this guy ever release videos? And the answer is no, because I just can't help but bite off more than I can chew, and my entire life is spent doing these dumb projects and running our business, Nightweave. So a special thanks to those of you who purchased cloaks. And of course, the world's largest apology to our landlords. If you see this video, please do not evict me. Just let me cook. I think I maybe am going somewhere if I can figure out how to get one of these videos done every week or so. And for the rest of you, let me know in the comments what you think of the final results here. And if you like what you see, subscribe for more tomfoolery and stupid projects just like this. So, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.